What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Blockchain Warehouse. Today, I have two incredible guests here with us today. First and foremost, we have Dave Savage, the founder and CEO of Mortgage Coach, and we also have Joe Markham, the CEO of Block66. Joe and Dave, welcome to the show, guys.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
No problem at all. Now, guys, before we get into it, I'd love to understand a little bit more about your background. Dave, why don't we start with you? Why don't you talk a bit about your background and, your experience in the mortgage industry over the last sort of 10, 15 years?
Yeah, no problem. So, I've been at it for a long time. I started as a loan officer, built a mortgage company, really founded and invented Mortgage Coach on this premise that the best mortgage advisors are ones that deliver advice.
Yeah.
So I created this, technology called the Mortgage Coach. And this total cost analysis that helps a loan officer deliver better advice to a family. So when they get a mortgage debt, they understand not only their rates, their fees, their transactional details, but they understand the difference between different loan options over time. So at the end of the day, helping loan officers and lenders help families make better mortgage decisions leveraging technology.
Perfect. Awesome. And Joe, I know you're doing something incredible in the technology field right now with Block66, which is a blockchain technology that's disrupting the mortgage industry. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so just a little bit myself. I've been a mortgage broker up here in Canada for just touched my 5-year mark. Got into the industry 2014, 15, worked corporate theft and fraud. Before that, actually growing up, wanted to be a police officer. Life changes in different ways. Kind of a tech nut myself. I'm not a programmer or coder. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. But I just love technology, and you see all the apps and stuff coming out on the app stores and different software solutions for various industries. So for the last probably 3.5 years, I've kind of just have a journal of how it started was just a new loan origination platform. So as a broker, kind of Dave touched on it. Sometimes things get confusing, and for the broker, for the potential homeowner, or whether it's an investor getting into multiple properties. So, trying to build out the best mousetrap utilizing technology. So that's where it started. And then just with all the blockchain buzz, over the last 2 or 3 years, maybe there's a fit and an actual use case, as opposed to some of these other blockchain technologies that are coming out where does it deserve chain? Does it need chain? Things like that. So, that's how Block66 came about. So for the last 18 months, we've been nose down to the pavement, working on it and getting her going here. So that's how it came to be.
Amazing. And one of the core sort of fundamentals of a blockchain technology is that it increases reliability, it increases transparency. Now, how does Block66 do this within the mortgage industry, and what exactly is it doing to disrupt the industry?
Yeah, so I'm a Google nut. So I before I even set out on this, I wanted to make sure that there's not 1,000 other companies or 1,000 other people trying to get into this. But it is my niche. I'm very comfortable on the mortgage side. I know how the process works. I'm still learning all the time. But so the transparency, as Dave mentioned before, too. The loan origination platform that we're working on is kind of at the two phases, so say. So creating, cutting some of the meat off the bone process for the homeowner and the lenders and the brokers themselves, so that everyone involved can see that transparency. So that does the homeowner truly know that they're obtaining the best mortgage product given their needs today and over the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years, depending on what their plan is. On the lending side, they work with 50, 100,000, 10,000 brokers at any given time. It gives them a way, as opposed to sending out sales emails and different messagings and conference calls on what their best product is or what their best rate is. They can update their own internal guidelines, lending rates, products, and things on our platform. Again, so it helps the broker out knowing that they are putting the best possible solution forward for their client. And then it just ties everything all together. We can figure out into bringing the lawyers in, title officers, anyone who's involved in the entire process. And again, so they all have full transparency as to what's going on and ticking those boxes.
Amazing. And Dave, as somebody who's been in this industry a long time, have you heard anything about how blockchain is going to disrupt the industry? Are you familiar with the technology? And what's your thoughts on how technology is going to change the mortgage industry? Like, from your experience, there must be countless examples of where a lack of transparency, a lack of reliability, and almost asymmetric information has really kind of driven down sales, and it's really kind of disrupted the market in the sense that it's just caused a lot of friction. So what's your kind of experience with that?
Yeah, so first of all, yeah, I've heard it. I mean, I'm also a tech nerd,
Yeah.
and so I've known about blockchain for some time. I think, the first time was my interview with Steve Brown, the former futurist of Intel, and I was interviewing him, and he, really talked about how much blockchain is going to change things. And that was about a year ago during that interview that it really started to, seems like it's accelerated the talk. But from my perspective, anything that improves transparency and speed, if you look at most of the disruptions that have taken place, whether it's Uber and, list off all the things that have changed and disrupted, they improve transparency, they improve the speed. So, we've always been focused on helping people go from I'm confused to I'm clear, from confusion to clarity. That's always with improved transparency. That's been the mortgage coach way. But it's clear that blockchain and any technology that improves transparency and speed it's going to disrupt the space, and it's happening fast.
Yeah, amazing. Now, on the topic of it's happening and it's happening fast, that's something that I wanted to touch on next, because right now there's a lot of kind of market perception. A lot of people don't know what necessarily blockchain is and what it's doing in the industry. So even right now, there's a lot of friction with people slightly wary about what the technology is. And this is common in anything, right? We had the .com boom. We had numerous kind of bubbles where this was meant to be something that a lot of people didn't think would happen, and then it became something that was in mass adoption. Now, from your experience of the mortgage industry, how fast do you think it will move before something like this and a technology like this becomes relatively mainstream?
Well, I mean, I listen to experts like Steve and other, what I would just say, like there's people that predict rates and economists, and I listen to them. I mean, here's what I do know. I mean, I believe in Moore's Law and the concept that we're going to see, if Moore's Law is 10 years worth of change or 50 years worth of change over 10 years, that means we're going to see 10 years worth of change over 2 years. Yeah. I believe in that. Like, that is something that is not just a concept. I mean, it's something I believe at my core. So I know it's happening fast. Yeah. But as far as blockchain having a prolific impact on the mortgage industry, is that 2 years? Is that 3 years? Is that 5 years? I do personally leave that to others to predict. Sure. But it's happening fast. In fact, I'd love to know, one of the two people on this call, I'd love to know what you guys think. When is it going to happen?
Sure, Joe, I would love to get your thoughts on that, because one of the advisors on your board is actually Paper Moretti, who was one of the first people involved in a transaction that actually involved blockchain and Bitcoin technology. So what are your thoughts on that, Joe?
Yeah, we're super happy to have Piper on board. She's, I first came across her in one of the real estate publications or mortgage documents that I read. And she's been a great support to us, but how Piper handled that transaction was, it was $1 million plus purchase equivalent in Bitcoin. So there was no money in terms of loans or things like that. But she does understand the process inside and out in terms of, that transaction getting to where it was, because even the lawyers involved were like, well, we can't do this. What is Bitcoin? They didn't even know. So yeah, super happy to have her on. But there's purchases happening every day. You hear of, I just read that Bentley and Bugatti are officially going to start accepting Bitcoin as a form of currency to purchase vehicles. So there's some exchanges and things that have to happen in terms of liquidity. But in terms of when is blockchain going to take over the mortgage industry? I don't know. Hopefully sooner than later. Yeah. What we're trying to do is position ourselves that we're at the forefront of it. So whether it's meeting with regulators and meeting with people like Dave and industry insiders or market leaders or different government agencies or some of the top lenders or small private lenders, to try and push the proper messaging and try to get out some of that gray area or the black area of some negative connotations with blockchain, just because I think it's so new. I think we're only 8-10 years in. But our goal is to fund the first mortgage on chain within the next 6 to 9 months.
Amazing.
It'll probably be something small. maybe a $50,000 second mortgage or something like that that's backed by a private high net worth individual. But our goal is to do that. And then, work with some of these other entities that are on chain, whether it's title registry or some high-end law firms that are trying to get into this space and really push the envelope again. So once it does happen, Block66 or we're at the front of it. That's what we're trying to do.
Amazing. And on the topic of gray areas, what is some of the most common misnomers that people have about blockchain as a technology and how it ties into the real estate industry? And if you could sort of iron them out, what would you kind of say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the general, water cooler talk or Friday, Saturday barbecue beer talk. It's like, blockchain, isn't that Bitcoin? And, don't people do illegal things on the internet with it? I think that's the main conversation that comes up. Actually, Shingo Levine from Ethos is on our advisory board as well.
Amazing.
20 years old, 21 years old, just a pure whiz kid. I think someone quoted him as, the next Zuckerberg of blockchain.
Wow.
But he started Ethos because of his aunt, who he claims is a very intelligent woman, wanted to buy some cryptocurrencies and just didn't know how and found it very confusing and didn't understand anything about it. So again, I think some of the negative connotations or, the misunderstanding of it is those maybe under quote illegal aspects of things that can be happening. But, general dollars get exchanged all day across the world for terrible things. So
of course.
I think that's the main messaging, is that there's thousands of businesses trying to do awesome things with this awesome technology.
Yeah.
And that's just the basic messaging behind it.
Sure. And Dave, you're connected to some of the most influential people in the world in the mortgage industry. You've had, I'm sure, numerous conversations. What's the general consensus that you're hearing from people about blockchain technology or any new technology that may be on the mortgage front?
Well, first of all, my partner, Greg Wexler, co-founder of Mortgage Coach, I wish he was on this call with me right now, because he is a pioneer in cryptocurrency himself.
Amazing.
But I mean, all in all, I run with innovators, so we're pumped. We feel like it's happening, it's real. To Joe's point, I think the general consumer perspective is that it's is that where illegal stuff done, or it's almost myth. But we're excited about it. I see it happening. In fact, I have two partners, Joe Pertur and Greg Wexler.
Yeah.
And Joe, when the Puerto Rico disaster happened, we actually funded buying some generators with cryptocurrency.
Wow.
And Joe went out and spent a month in Puerto Rico really making a difference. So there's a whole story on that. But I see it happening, and I think it's awesome.
Amazing. That's incredibly impressive that people are actually using cryptocurrency for philanthropic ventures. And it's a shame that actually doesn't get portrayed in the media. Joe, from your experience, of the mortgage industry, what are some of the things that sort of need to be portrayed more in the media about how blockchain technology and how Block66 are actually utilizing this technology to make certain changes?
Yeah, that's kind of my role within the company, is just I try to do as many calls like this and podcasts and things. And, we've written, seems like hundreds of byline articles on the technology and how it can help. Again, off the top, my background's in theft and fraud. I grew up wanting to be a police officer, but I ended up on the corporate side.
Got it.
There's, with the transparency that's involved and being able to put everything on chain, partnering or building an in-house KYC AML solution, which is massive in this space. Mm-hmm. Again, utilizing technology where a loan officer or mortgage broker doesn't necessarily have to fly to San Francisco if they're based in New York to help close a transaction, because of these blockchain technologies that are coming in, just in terms of know your client and AML, or bringing in private investors. That's all done on chain now, and that's there forever. You can't change it.
Yeah.
And in terms of with what we're trying to do and as it moves forward on the secondary markets, we've all heard through in 2008 what happened, to nausea. But again, with blockchain, as these mortgages can be bought and sold, if digitization of assets, moves forward, and part of our offering is that that mortgage, once it's bundled or traded or sold or however it wants to be handled, there's a full transparent record of who initially obtained that mortgage. All the details they want are there, as opposed to just saying, I think it was Mr. Steve Smith who owns a company. I don't really know.
Okay.
But so those traders or people acquiring those mortgages would they could dive as deep as they want into that. So
sure.
There's tons of stuff, and it's just getting the messaging out there of how it can help, and that's what we're trying to do.
Amazing. Now let's touch on the topic of transparency, because with blockchain involved, there's going to be a lot of data. There's going to be data about potential house prices. There's going to be data about, various demographics and how the house prices are fluctuating within certain areas. And historically, we've had housing crises. We've had, housing price bubbles burst. How do you think, what do you think the impact of blockchain technology is going to be on users making informed decisions about buying potential houses? Because that could have a lot of impact on even investors. They could even hire statisticians to look at blockchain information, look at the various house prices, and that could govern buying decisions purely based on this information, right? So how do you think that's going to impact people on a more sort of broader scale? And I'm talking in terms of actually being implemented in day-to-day lives with buying decisions, investor decisions, real estate properties who would be looking at sort of buying all this land and properties.
Yeah, I mean, people do it all the time. I mean, like I said, I'm a Google nut. I rely on Google more than, my most trusted family members sometimes. Right?
Yeah.
So, and again, that's just some of the things you can leverage as a tech company. There's so much data and there's so much information out there, and it just depends on, how robust of a product you want to build and put out there to your potential clients, or do you just want to streamline and focus on one thing? But that is, with all that data, whether it's on chain or direct through API or various things like that, we can pull in all that data and hopefully, whether it's helping a lender, showing, breaking down a particular neighborhood, and being able to provide the last 50 transactions and property statistics and all that things. That data is out there.
Amazing.
And that's something that we'll be doing. And again, as more companies come on chain that are doing those offerings, it's something that we could definitely partner with and or plug into, or go the traditional,
Got it. Sure. And Dave, what are your thoughts on that? With this amount of data and with the sort of investors, with all the patterns that you're seeing in the industry, how do you potentially see people's decisions making processes change as a result of this new information that will be now available?
Well, I mean, I think the two biggest technologies impacting real estate, and let's just go 5-10 years out.
Yeah.
Just the concept of driverless cars.
Sure.
I mean, that's gonna change, real estate. Like if, commute time is no longer an issue with driverless cars, that's gonna change things, and blockchain. I think a lot of it depends on when it hits and how it hits. Yeah. But I mean, anytime people can make more informed decisions, they're better off.
Yeah, 100%.
So, at the end of the day, people will make better decisions because they're more informed, there's more transparency. And then I think it's also super interesting, with the concept of driverless cars. It's flash forward 10 years from now, it's going to be a new world. Exciting time to be here.
For sure. 1 sec, Dave. I think we lost Joe. Just give me 1 second. I want to see where he's gone.
Yeah, Joe's coming in and out. But by the way, it looks like Joe's back.
Oh, yeah, Joe's back.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe. Cool. All right, there we go. We've got Joe back. Cool. Yeah, Joe. So Dave was just talking about how it's going to be an interesting time to live in, and any time where we have more readily available information, it's always going to be better. So yeah, I think, guys, look, I think there's no doubt where the kind of industry is going. There's no doubt that blockchain is going to make a huge impact. It's going to improve reliability. It's going to improve transparency. There's going to be more data. People are going to be able to make more informed decisions. Both of you guys are absolute market leaders in this industry and some of the most influential people in the mortgage industry in this time. And it's really kind of credible and reassuring to hear you guys say this is where the kind of industry is going. And you both have your fingers on the pulse with technology, as you both, quite rightly said, you're both techies and quite into this space. So I think it really sets a level of precedence for people to follow. And I think, we've helped iron out a lot of the misnomers that it's not something that's only used for bad things on the internet. Now, Dave, as a sort of concluding comment for Mortgage Coach, is there anything that you're working on that's super exciting right now that you'd love to share with the audience in the next sort of 3 to 6 months that is going to be really exciting for the mortgage industry?
Well, I mean, I am so proud of what we've done in terms of how we've just built this mobile first platform so that families can make informed decisions, whether they're going from renting to owning, whether they're moving up. Right now they can get bar charts, graphs on mobile devices and make an informed decision. Probably the biggest things that's happening in our world today is just the acceleration of how our APIs are being used, so that literally that mortgage coach button is being integrated into all of the technology that runs the mortgage industry here in America. And so, a loan officer could go from, I'm pricing a loan, Optimal Blue prices about 70% of the loans here in America, to I'm delivering advice, mortgage coach button in Optimal Blue. So it's kind of like the native workflow of how the industry works.
Yeah.
Delivers this amazing consumer experience. So that's call it next 6 months. And then, we've got a whole roadmap where we're, going to have our Amazon skill live, and we're putting call it a voice, menu around all of our technology. So it's a fun time to be an innovator.
For sure. And Joe, for yourself with Block66, I know you had some really interesting things in the pipeline over the next sort of 12 to 18 months. What would you say are your sort of concluding comments and anything you'd love to share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, we just, I guess first and foremost, we just opened up our TGE or ICO last Thursday. So that's anyone who's interested in possibly taking a look at that, just check us out at block66.io. White papers there. They can register to participate in that, which would be greatly appreciated if you see the value in our project. But again, yeah, we're just continuing to build out the team, searching the globe for some of the, arguably the best talent, whether they're developers or salespeople or marketers and things like that. And then, I'm just focused on education and working with various regulators and lawyers to make this a real thing in North America, and then over into Europe and such. And then, just like I said, try to get this first mortgage through on chain in the next 6 to 9 months. That's where we're dialed into.
Perfect. Guys, everyone listening to this, stay tuned. There's really exciting things happening both with Mortgage Coach and Block66. There will be links to everything in the description above. And thank you so much for your time. Guys, Joe, Dave, it's been a pleasure.
One last thing.
Go for it.
I want to make sure anyone that wants to see a real world example where blockchain funded good things in Puerto Rico, go check out Generation Gives.
Cool. Awesome.
They have an Instagram link and a website, because I think it is a very cool story of technology making a difference.
For sure. I'll share that link on the description. Cool, guys. Thanks a lot. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right, thanks, guys.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye.